The Women's Tennis Association has announced it is suspending tournaments in China out of concern for Chinese tennis star Peng Shuai, whose safety has been at the heart of a weeks-long confrontation between the WTA and the Chinese government. Chairman Steve Simon said in a statement, quote, "In good conscience, I don't see how I can ask our athletes to compete when Peng Shuai is not allowed to communicate freely and has seemingly been pressured to contradict her allegation of sexual assault. Given the current state of affairs, I'm also greatly concerned about the risks that all of our players and staff could face if we were to hold events in China in 2022.
Peng Shuai accused former Chinese Vice Premier Zhang Gaoli of sexual misconduct and garnered international attention when she disappeared for more than 2 weeks. Last month, Chinese state media tweeted that the star was safe and even alleged she had recanted her accusation. Yeah, right. The tennis star was then seen in a series of videos shown on state media before finally easing some concerns by participating in a November 21st video call with the International Olympic Committee. Here to weigh in is Katie Halper. She's co-host of the Useful Idiots podcast and host of The Katie Halper Show. She recently had a great episode with Kim, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah.
So what, what should we make of this? This is, I guess, probably a call they have to make, given how ridiculous the Chinese government is being about this whole thing.
Okay, so I'm someone who is very skeptical about the way China is represented in the media, and I gotta say, I was surprised. Like, this shocked even me. I looked into it. There's a lot of assumptions that are being made. So one is that there's really no evidence for any of the things that have been said, and I want to say clearly, like up front, I believe women, but I believe in the believe women idea, which is that you by default believe the woman, right? But this isn't a question of believe women. This is a question of believe the media and believe the very anti-Chinese, I would say, media. Because here's the thing: she made comments about a relationship she had with this person. It doesn't allege sexual assault. I read the full translation of it. The guy sounds kind of like a word I can't say on this show. But she doesn't allege sexual assault. There's no evidence the comments were taken down by anyone. There's no proof of that. I mean, people delete their tweets, right? Then she hasn't disappeared. This is the craziest thing, right? So the story is that she disappeared, but she sent an email to the WTA asking it to respect her privacy. She's posted pictures of herself. There's a video of her at a public tennis event. There's also a video of her going to dinner at a restaurant. She had a 30-minute video conference with the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, and they released part of it. So I think that this is more than anything else, it's a story, I think, about kind of the media just parroting certain talking points for which there's no evidence. I mean, it's not inconceivable that these things would happen, that someone in a government would delete emails, but there's just no proof of it. And that I don't think we can by default believe that. And I think a lot of people's opinions about China are just covering are coloring coverage.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you on the coverage with China. I mean, I definitely think there are issues with China that we should be very concerned with, but they're not what the media tends to go after. So the media kind of paints China with these human rights abuses and all these crazy things that are going on over there. And it's kind of this, wanting to tug at the heartstrings, wanting to make people say, oh my gosh, we have to do something about this horrible, mean, terrible, evil China. When in reality, I think the big issues we have with them stem more around economics and censorship and speech and whatnot and control and big money interests. And there's a lot there that I could go into. But one other thing that I think is often missed in these sorts of stories is culture. And this always gets me. Asian culture is just very different than Western culture. Eastern culture, Western culture, they're very, very different. And the way Asian culture approaches any sort of accusations or, because we hear all the time, somebody has disappeared, in China. This person is no longer around. And it's because the culture is very different. Here in the West, when there's a scandal, we blast it all over the news, right? It becomes front page press. Everybody talks about it ad nauseum. That's the thing to do whenever there's a scandal or an accusation of any sort. And in Asian cultures, up to this point, maybe it'll change, but it has been more, you handle this stuff behind closed doors, that this is sort of shameful for the entire country.
Well, but you can't talk about things that embarrass the government because they won't let you, right? I mean, some of these issues are related.
It's deeper than that, though. This is a family thing. Inside Asian families, it's like this. You do not shame your family. Even if you have a totally credible accusation, it is something that you talk about behind closed doors. It is not for public consumption. That is just a cultural issue that is deeply embedded in the culture that obviously would go all the way up into the government. It's not only about criticizing the government. It's inside the family unit as well. So, that's kind of missing.
I also think that it's very hard for me to take, again, if I believe women, and the irony is that I believe her, and she's saying, respect my privacy. She's appearing in public. And I think that, again, there just has to be some evidence. It can't just be, oh, China government bad, China government repressive. You can't just then make things up. And to me, this story, again, is just the media's response to this. I think it's, again, I'm not shocked by a lot of media representation or how the media presents China or other countries that, the United States has deemed adversarial. But even this shocked me, just because going through it, both the what was said, not an assault, just literally not a single thing about assault, a thing about her changing her opinion, her wanting to have sex with this person or not, and the disappearance thing not happening. I just think that we should be looking at all of this through the lens of with a lot of skepticism,
right, and also, always investigating.
Yeah. And that doesn't, nothing I'm saying violates or contradicts believe women, because again, this is not me saying, oh, I don't believe what this person said about an assault. She actually doesn't describe an assault. And I believe her when she says that I believe her physical appearance. And the fact that the media is just calling her disappeared, again, without any evidence that she's in any danger. Also, I think that the United States, we've seen the United States weaponize sexual assault allegations in a way that actually does not put the victims first. In the case of, for instance, Julian Assange, where they totally didn't even do the investigation right. So this wouldn't be the first time they did that. And of course, the United States doesn't diplomatically boycott, countries that have really bad sexual assault records. From Afghanistan to Saudi Arabia.
Is there any truth to the story at all I
agree with that. I agree with what you're saying, and I guess unlike you, I have urged a lot of caution about kind of Me Too stories in general. I think you can respect an accuser without. Belief is kind of I guess is not a term I like, because I feel like these things should be, you should not be dismissed. You can, show respect and support to someone who says something, but then if we're going to consider some sort of action or political context, there needs to be further investigation. But so I agree with you about that, but I mean, they won't, the Chinese government won't let you, we played the clip of them shutting off CNN, domestically in their country when they start talking about it. So it doesn't, they won't let you say anything critical about them, even if this isn't true.
Well, I'd have to see the clip and also compare media control and censorship there and here. But I still think that even if that's to the extent that that's true, that can't be that's not evidence that someone didn't just delete a tweet. And we already know it's been misrepresented in terms of her allegations. And that's not evidence that when she appears publicly, it's under duress. And again, the IOC had a conversation with her. They released parts of it. I just think it's, again, one's opinions on the Chinese government. I think we shouldn't let that make us gullible or believe any story about China.
Right. I mean, they definitely censor. China is definitely
more aggressively than we do. Our government is terrible and flawed in many ways. But in terms of letting you criticize the regime, it's not. There's no comparison.
definitely censor quite a bit. But one of the things that they also do is they say, one thing that, like I said, what we do here is whenever there's an accusation, we blast it everywhere. It's front page news, and they don't do that. They say, you can't. They don't want you to do that until it's actually evidence and proof, and the case has been settled. Yeah. So that is another difference in how they operate, and in some cases, I would say that there's maybe something to consider there. Should we be putting people all over the news that are supposedly innocent until they're actually proven guilty? Yeah. And over there, it's a little bit different on how they do it. But they definitely censor. There's no doubt about that. That is one of my biggest concerns about them and how that influence is seeping here into the U.S. because they're buying up companies. Absolutely. They're influencing companies. Yeah. And then they're influencing them to censor.
Yeah, no, it's a big problem.
As a patriot, I'm a strong believer in the United States' independent streak of censorship. It doesn't require foreign intervention. But yeah, I understand. I just had to really quickly, I got to mention this because you guys cover the Stephen Donziger case. I got to mention this. We are putting together a great, if I do say show. Me, Marianne Williamson, Brianna Joy Gray, Crystal Ball, and I are joining hosting forces, and we're having a free Donziger event Wednesday, December 8th at 7 p.m. EST with guests including Richard Wolff, Chris Hedges, Roger Waters, Lucy Lawless, as in Xena, Warrior Princess, lawyers for Donziger. And I just had to mention that because I know your viewers will love it. I know you guys will love it. That's at youtube.com/The Katie Halper Show, youtube.com/The Katie Halper Show.
You had me at Lucy Lawless. Thank you.
December 8th at 7 p.m. EST. Wednesday, December 8th at 7 p.m. EST at youtube.com/The Katie Halper Show.
All righty. Thank you, Katie. We really appreciate it, and we'll check that out.
Thanks so much, guys. Great.
More Rising after this. Stay with us, please.